Nigeria officially enters the presidential and National Assembly campaign season for the 2027 general election shortly. Those ballots are scheduled for January the 16th next year, with the governorship and state assembly campaigns expected to begin on September the 9th, ahead of the elections on February the 6th. After years of economic hardship, insecurity, unemployment, poverty, and declining living standards, voters are increasingly asking candidates to move beyond personality attacks, ethnic calculations, religious mobilization, and incendiary rhetoric, and tell them precisely how they intend to fix the country. And the challenge goes beyond producing attractive manifestos. Nigerians want specific, measurable commitments. What will candidates do? How will they pay for it? How quickly can they deliver it? And what mechanisms will allow citizens to hold them accountable? There is also the darker side of electioneering. Nigeria has seen enough violence, hate speech, and political tension during previous electoral cycles. So, as the campaign season officially opens, what should Nigerians demand from those asking for their votes? And what should politicians themselves understand about the kind of campaign and the kind of leadership the country now desperately needs? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the political analyst, Professor Okey, Ikechukwu, Executive Director of Development Specs Academy, member of the editorial board of This Day newspaper, and Professor of Strategic Management and Human Capital Development. Prof, thank you very much indeed for being here.
My pleasure.
What should this campaign be about?
It should be about Nigeria. And that means that when you speak of Nigeria, you're talking about security, about responsible citizenship, about responsible leadership, which means that if I'm a local government, I'm supposed to be operating in the local government and ought to be held accountable. If I'm a councillor, I have a role. If I'm a governor, I have a role. In preparing for this election, Nigerians should sit down quietly, calibrate those who are holding those offices and the parties to which they belong, and ask themselves very specific questions. Have these people delivered on these offices? If they haven't, is it the fault of those occupying it or their party? Whichever it is, that answer should guide their vote. Then for those who are priming to take over from whoever is in power, Nigerians should also ask themselves three distinct questions. Number one, what is the personal track record of these individuals as credible persons, as people who have served the public with distinction and integrity? And then at the level of public engagement, what is it? What good can be traced to them? And what makes you think that if Nigeria is handed over to them, they will do a good job of it? Those are the issues. Now, for the campaign, whether they are giving money or not, I've always maintained a position in recent times, and I'll repeat it. Collect the money if you must, but vote who you think will deliver value.
Is that what happened in Osun State?
That's what I gather, and that should be an object lesson for the APC. You see, the days of wearing agbada, pretending or imagining that your siren makes you something bigger. And by the way, I'm so Charles, you might notice, once people get into office, they wear slightly bigger clothing. And when they are walking, their hands hang out as if they have boils in their armpit. And that's supposed to indicate how important they will become, which is ridiculous. Now, practically all the governors moved down to Osun. Osun people said, this is our land, this is our preference, and they protected the votes. Not like Labour Party in the last election. They protected their votes. So, I understand, I have no evidence that quite substantial sums of money moved around. But
well, the observers said
yes, they said
was
so.
that movement
but
of money.
Those who moved all that money lost dramatically. And if you look at the profile, the presumed political profile of those who lost, they were supposed to be, or they are supposed to be, the big boys of today. I mean, Abuja is behind me. It's a walkover. We'll show this man that. We'll even tell him who should stay in his kitchen. They're out. What they haven't realized is that they're also buried, because what political future will you expect from those who lost? Not in Osun, not at the federal, because their colleagues at the federal, Politicians are like the hyena. The hyena, spotted hyena, is the most wicked animal against his own kind. Nobody's going to make room for them and all of that. So those are the new realities to begin to deal with. You have 31 states. I wouldn't argue about that. Do you really have 31 states? The chairmen who were suddenly displaced when the governor decamped, is he happy? Are you going to have anti-party activities? So that's on the side of the APC. On the side of the opposition, is it possible for you to come together? I don't see them preparing to do that. Is there a clear strategy? Possibly there may be, but I haven't seen it. But the interesting thing is that Nigerians should be told three things. Look at the record of service delivery of those we elected 4 years ago. Look at the record of those threatening to displace them and ask yourself, where should my vote go and for what reason?
That's a very good point, very good points actually, and a good pointer for people who are hopefully watching and listening. The campaign officially begins in a few hours. What rule would you impose, because you've talked about the people, what rule would you impose on every politician seeking votes? Because we've become accustomed to campaigns built around personalities, ethnicity, religion, political attacks. Can we realistically force the 2027 contest to become a competition of ideas? Or is that asking too much of the Nigerian political class? Because even today, President Tinubu, who impressed a lot of people in Osun State by, to some extent, being hands-off, is urging political actors to shun divisive primordial sentiments ahead of 2027. He signed the peace accord. I wonder what you make of all that. And in that context, what rule you think should be imposed on the politicians themselves as they seek votes?
No, first, I don't see the need to impose any extra rules. There are already rules for good behavior in elections. Now, the statements attributed to the president is not also new. We've had it over and over from previous presidents and even former heads of state. Peace accord, we've seen all kinds of peace accords signed.
Well, just to be specific, he committed the APC, and that's quite specific, to peaceful, transparent elections, committed them to the rejection of violence, rejection of hate speech, and rejection of misinformation. And he said campaigns must strengthen, not tear Nigeria's social fabric.
I am familiar with the text, but I usually would make a distinction between an official statement, usually a prepared speech by a leader, and the political economy on the ground everywhere. He has committed the APC to this. Question number one, how many APC members know that he said this? Number two, I'm contesting elections on the platform of the APC somewhere, and the template I intend to deploy is the old template. And somebody comes to whisper, Mr. President has said we should. He said, are you not aware I've spent 1.5 billion so far? President is not here, let's do our thing. So while I'm saying that it's good, he said that as a leader, we must not ride on it as a stopper.
Yeah, but do you think it'll be different? Because obviously he said something similar and it had some kind of impact in Osun State. Do you think it'll be different because he himself is a participant in 2027?
Possibly, but even going to Osun, I think that the Osun situation is really more like looking at a balance of terror. Could he really have done anything different and gotten away with it?
Well, according to Nyesom Wike, if they had deployed federal might, they would have won.
And you sent how many governors, and that's not federal enough? You sent some people from the presidency, that's not federal enough, until Wike comes. If you're going to deploy, if you want to deploy federal might in Ondo, it will only mean that you have to roll out the guns and start shooting people. The will of the people who have seen where their interest lies cannot be violated. And I take us back to Issa Yuguda when he first won the election for governorship in Bauchi. The powers that be didn't want him. Elections were to be declared with him as loser. The campaign engagement was simple. After voting, stay there. The people stayed. Follow it, they moved it. If you take it, was announced, I think, 2 days or 3 afterwards. They went to the polling station, the people surrounded them, to the final collation center, the people surrounded the place. They imposed the curfew. The people panicked. And those involved in the campaign simply said, no, don't move about. You can use your mouth and lie around the place. They had to announce the results. If Nigerians are resolved The issue is that, okay, if it's money, if he doesn't want money, give him more money. If it turns out that with money and more money, people still take deliberate decisions, it will be a different ballgame. So I am not convinced that he laid off Ondo because he was in love with democracy or he want. No, if he was, why did you deploy all of that? So it was a game. He is far more of a strategist than a lot of people around him who think they are helping him. When you see that you're going to get a beating, right? Two of you are fighting over an orange. You look at the other guy is going to beat the hell out of you. You could announce that you don't even take oranges. And nobody will know you're running out of cowardice. They lost Ondo. There's no question about that. Let's not kid ourselves.
Now, millions of Nigerians are clearly struggling with the cost of food, transport, housing, basic services. What specifically should candidates be required to tell voters about this?
Number one, be honest about it. First of all, there isn't enough food in the country because for more than 6 years, the places that used to supply our food have been taken over by bandits. So it's not this government alone. That's number one. My dear fellow Nigerians, that's the truth of the matter. Maiduguri is shut down, Middle Belt is the food basket, all of them, so there's food scarcity. Number two, the remedy will not lie in quick fixes. What I think we're going to do is to, first of all, in the short term, secure targeted food procurement. Second, everybody has a piece of land around where he lives, plant something. Third, we're not coming in so that once we come in the next day, you start celebrating. These are the problems I want us to solve together. So that becomes, you then begin to get used to hearing honest conversation from leaders. But if all you announce is austerity and no prospect, that becomes a problem on itself. Because that hunger, that poverty, that food scarcity is also linked with a lot of other variables. Everything in the market is high. The populace would want to know what you're going to do about fuel price, cost of transportation, among other things. And is it good to send the money? You say they are making extra money from petroleum withdrawal of subsidy. You can see the governors are tiring roads. Roads is not ghosts and dead bodies that walk on roads. The human beings are dying. Imagine that you announce that, look, State A, take inventory of the total number of your people in the university. For this year, they are not paying school fees. The money for subsidy goes into it. Yes, there's the scholarship thing. There are pain points for a lot of people, which is always under the radar. If those pain points are part of what is brought on the table, it becomes palliatives, quote unquote, that they can see. But both for the government and the opposition, there's no easy ride on this matter.
Well, politicians routinely promise jobs, and you've sort of touched on that. They promise prosperity, economic transformation. Should they be required to put numbers besides those promises? In other words, how many jobs, by when, at what cost, and through what policies?
It would be foolhardy to do that, and I'll tell you why. Recall that governments always tell you how many jobs they are creating. Oh, this government has created 300,000 jobs. The government that is talking, does he know that 425,000 jobs were lost within the period? No, because he's not tracking. Oh, we're now promoting businesses and creating opportunities. Are you aware that in a particular area, 37% of the business have shut down for the last 6 years? You're not. And so that's why you find that there's a challenge with communication. When government communication is talking about, this is what we've done, not this is the impact, not this is what, is not remedying. The narrative has become fundamentally dishonest. And you can't blame them. It's the inherited criteria for interpretation we've gotten. Today we are told that the Naira is stable, which is factually correct. It's not gone up to 2,000 again. It's fluctuating between 1,500 and 350, 1,350 and co. Is there anything to celebrate? A man fainted and stopped breathing. Then eventually you revived him. He's still unconscious and he's breathing, and he's been stable for 3 years.
But he's in a coma.
Totally, that is it. Stable at the point of death. So when you see that the stability cannot drive investment, cannot improve the level of living, and then I'm telling you, you Charles, and okay, what is wrong with you? Can't you see we've stabilized the Naira? Have mercy on yourself. You were earning 200 naira before. Now your salary is stabilized at 7 naira. You can't pay all your bills, but you're stable. That's what you're being told.
That's very interesting. Do you think in that context that Nigeria is suffering from a shortage of good policies or a shortage of political leaders capable of implementing good policies? And how should voters distinguish between the two?
It's not shortage of good policies. It's not shortage of people. You see, policy is not an instrument for robbery. That's actually the more exact way to look at it. We make a policy that suits us because we are the ones in charge. We pass the laws we like. That's what's happening. So you don't talk about implementation. At the very point of policy conception, fraud is woven into it. In the National Assembly, you're coming to present your budget. Your budget is 200,000. And I say, well, you have to make it 235,000. And let me have the 35,000 up front before that starts. That's the allegation, rumor. I'm not backing it or denying it. So what then is policy? You win elections and the banks approach you. You're a senator. You've not even been sworn in. You're given ATM cards from more than 5 banks. Oga, there's about 20 million in it, at least, to keep stabilizing. He expects you're going to steal. So when we are looking at the politicians...
That sounds really sad. Funny, but
because
sad.
Corporate Nigeria is one of the most impressive facilitators of state looting.
So it's a public-private partnership.
It's a private...
In a very sick sort of way.
Sick sort of way, and everybody goes around looking good. Let's ask ourselves, who are the owners of all the bureau de change? What percentage of bureau de change are not owned by politicians, by proxy? So you now talk about monetary policy and fiscal policy in an environment that those in charge need that facade of a state in order to continue to rob the nation. Those are the issues on the table. Now, if you can have a leader who understands the system, understands how it works, and know where to plug, it's not by volatile announcements. You know what to make impossible. That's how policy becomes effective. So implementation, you've made a policy and we've been asked to implement it. It's not in our interest. What do? We keep dancing around and sending reports until you get tired, your tenure will go. We need a leader who, to use the Marxist expression, who will commit class suicide. Where that leader is coming from, I'm not sure.
Insecurity remains one of Nigeria's most persistent crises. What should Nigerians demand beyond the familiar promise to fight insecurity?
I won't even say what Nigerians demand. The government should end. There are communities today that are occupied, some of them for 5 years, by unknown quantities who drove out the original occupants. Those people should be driven away. Yeah,
but what I'm saying is that we're going into the campaign season.
Yes.
Obviously, some people, the people who are competing against the current government, feel that they haven't done enough. What should Nigerians be demanding of those people who are going to come in and say, well, the government hasn't done enough. I'm going to fight insecurity.
So you tell them, oh, I'll make sure kidnapping will stop. I'll make sure banditry will stop. I'll drive away all the character in Zamfara. You need not tell us the method, but those are declarations. Because the core interests, economic interests around criminality in Nigeria, that core is managed by the elite. And so that presents a problem. But it's important that a leader finds a way to navigate that, and he has to make very specific proclamations. And he must know how to go about it. It's not by talking on television. All those who are involved are known. If I'm in their position, I've gotten their call, I'll say, you've been in this thing for too long. I can blow you out of the water. I think you've made enough money. Enjoy your old age and all of that, but we need to rescue and restore this place. Do that across the board, having made consultation with certain interests who will then be behind you. The scale will drop by over 40%.
So you would accept a presidential candidate saying that he would call them in and sit down with them?
No.
And reach them, because that sounds like what...
That's his backroom arrangement. He is going to tell Nigerians that he's going to bring it to an end. That, look, there are individuals who are responsible for this. The fellow who is kidnapping you on the road is probably paid 25,000 after collecting the money.
True.
We have access. Technology is available. That phones cannot be traced is a lie. We'll trace them and all of that. That's the kind of thing a president would say. And as soon as he comes on, he sets one or two examples. The template becomes different henceforth.
Right.
You know.
Now, we've heard political rhetoric becoming increasingly incendiary. In Osun, for example, we heard about people talking about killing other people. Before that, we heard someone promoting the Muslim ticket and, you know, calling non-Muslims infidels. So we're seeing more sort of incendiary religious and ethnic language. What do you reckon should be done about that? Can Nigeria ever escape the grip of ethnic and religious politics while political parties themselves continue to exploit those identities for electoral advantage?
It is possible. It's been done. Abiola came on a Muslim ticket. Because he was so popular, nobody even thought about it. He was loved all over the country. This may not be liked by some, but Tinubu was governor in Lagos, Muslim. I was in Lagos, I was teaching in Unilag, then I went to Guardian editorial, but then I went to comment. I didn't know Tinubu was a Muslim. Does he have Christians in his house? His own home? Yes. What was his cabinet? Was it well populated? So we can't just pick religion as if it's an evil on its own. It's people's behavior and interpretation. And why today the Muslim ticket is an issue is that sensitivities are far stronger, nerves are very raw, and there's the illusion that once the man of your religion is involved, you're the better for it. That fact alone, given that that's the level of political maturity today, ought to be respected. So I can understand the narrative. Whether that translates into a solution, I do not know. Because I recall that Nasiru ran a Muslim ticket in Kaduna. And on one
El-Rufai.
Yes, Nasiru El-Rufai, sorry. And on one occasion, he was addressing an audience and I was telling them that, look, they're saying Muslim ticket. Let's even show them that everybody will be protected. Let them see the virtue of Islam in equity. Whether we saw that in what he did with Southern Zaire is another matter. So the narrative is not likely to decline because if you look at the reflexes of the Buhari government, it was ethnocentric to an abominable degree, extremely religious, focused in one direction. If you now look at the Tinubu government, people are saying that, yes, it's also Yorubanized and stuff like that. That kind of conversation will be going on. Why is he not gaining enough traction? Those who are crying the most of them are Northerners. And so when they come for solidarity, people will ask them, sorry, were you around when Buhari was president?
What did you say?
Precisely.
Right.
So that narrative, it's likely to be there, but a leader that is seen not to be driven by them will initially be distrusted, but over time they'll be watching his reflexes. That's how it can be built. But if you expected a leader will come and the next day everything will change, we are being delusional ourselves.
So given all this, and we're coming towards the end of the interview, I was waiting for that look on your face. Given all this, what should a serious 2027 manifesto look like? Should that also become the voters' ultimate checklist before they put their thumb on the ballot?
It should be. Government should specify what it's going to do in specific areas. But we are familiar with manifestos.
Yeah, but it's not just the government, it's also the...
No. By that I mean the parties.
Right.
But we are familiar with manifestos that are usually ignored the day after the elections. Where this might be different is that you have to get all party stakeholders, ward level, council level, local government level, go and discuss the manifesto as a narration to the people. You know, today, when we say the campaigns have begun, you will see the big men. They will arrive in Osun State, go to the stadium. That is no campaign. The people in the stadium are hired. Most of them will attend every campaign because they expect to get a new T-shirt, particularly the organizers. So there's no political party anywhere. And so that delusion, we have gone to a point. You haven't gone anywhere. Where is the drill down? The local government chairman should have a rally. He will feel important. He say, okay, you go and do in the ward, go and do the council. That is how you create mobilization. That's how you create believers. Not, they've given us this amount to share. Let's go to the local government chairman's house. You are demobilizing yourselves. If they do that, there will be heat from the floor, and then the Big men's movement will be the icing on the cake. Then that's where you begin to have convinced followers. So let them start real campaign. Design a manifesto. Yes, you don't need to. They must have at least 3 or 4 in reserve from unimplemented experiences in the past. All of them, whether APC or this thing. Then somebody should go and fish out the, what do you call it now? Restructuring document of APC.
Yes, I think El-Rufai presided over it.
That's, you know, that's the beauty of an El-Rufai. That man is intelligent, hands-on administrator. You like him or not.
Right.
You know, so let them fish out that could be a campaign point for the opposition. Because they will then say, yes, you have it, you didn't use it, now we're going to do that, among other things.
On that note, Prof, it's absolute delight to have you here and to put this in perspective, and I hope people have been watching and can see that there is an agenda that is being set for this campaign. Professor Okey Ikechukwu is a respected political analyst and commentator, executive director of Development Specs Academy, member of the editorial board of This Day newspaper, and professor of strategic management and human capital development. Thank you very much indeed.